Thank you, Judy, for your beautiful playing to set the ambiance in this room. Your music added to the love I feel in this room. This is a perfect moment, so thank you. I want to welcome all of you who've gathered here today. It's really heart-touching. I kept thinking to myself, man, I'm holding it together pretty good here. And now I'm seeing all of you, and all the memories are flooding back. And I had to go get myself a whole box of Kleenex. So I'm just really thrilled that you carved out some time to honor our dear Frances. So I'm really grateful for our sound team. It's Joey and Lindy in service today. I'll be showing you shortly a beautiful tribute to Frances that was put together by the family and Jim Nelson. And your program that you're enjoying is put together by Lori Barnes after the input from Nancy, of course. So I'd like right now, because we're creating sacred space, that you make sure any phone device is in a way that it won't interrupt or embarrass you, because I will be sure to point you out if your phone goes off. That, and also if you're new, we do welcome you, and that our restrooms are out the door and to your left at that first hallway. And if you need water or anything, you'll see the social hall. We want you to be comfortable. So let's take a moment to kind of set the intention for today, because I realize Frances lived a long, beautiful life, and we're just getting a snapshot here of her rich life. And I know many of you have these wonderful memories of your relationship with her. And I don't know if Nancy's going to share this, so I don't want to be spoiler alert, but are you going to talk about the cookies? Oh my, can I? What you see, usually, we do a cake or something that swirly letters that say, "We love you, Frances." And she goes, "I'd rather have cookies." And she's brought with her all of Frances' favorite cookie recipes. And all of them were made with love. So I know, it was hard not to eat them all as I put them on the trays, because it's not just one kind of cookie. And Charlie goes, "Can I have any?" And I was like, "No, just set the trays, including brownies." So really something to look forward to. And several other friends joined and put down a nice display of different foods for you to enjoy afterwards. So we'd love you to stay and have a very comfortable fellowship with one another where you can share your stories. And I understand, as we have had a lot of time to grieve, it's been a while since Frances passed on, but the empty space that she leaves in our lives is still very evident, because she was a woman of big love and honesty and wit and humility. So as we sit together in this space of love, we're able now to integrate the loss. We're able to lean into one another and allow the memories to come forth, and to allow ourselves to feel what is important to you about Frances's life as it impacted yours. So I often find that for me in the oddest ways, because when they were moving from Reading, I cleaned out one of their closets and they had a cat box in there, litter box. And I cleaned that out, but so now every time I clean out my own litter box, I'm thinking of Frances and Harry. And I'm thinking, why this? But every time I'm cleaning it out, I'm like, the sacred duty. So it's interesting how that happens. And I hope you look at the back of your program. She'll talk about that, I'm sure, because that's a very sweet story. And this is all a process of feeling our feelings, letting ourselves smile, and knowing that it's all joy in its form, and it's expressing also moments of sorrow. So we're here to support one another. A beautiful team of ministers have come forward to be a part of this, and several friends. So a place, I like to say, of loving kindness, where compassion holds the pain and sorrow of all beings with mercy and tenderness. I'd like to invite Reverend Pam Sanchez forward to do an opening prayers to further set this intention. Following her will be Reverend Dr. Mary Mitchell to share some reflections and a poetry reading.
So great to see the faces of all of us who've been together so many years. And I've just been filled with so much joy thinking about this celebration today. So if you'll just take a moment to join me. We come here, first of all, to acknowledge the oneness of all life and the flow of spirit in and through and as every life. That oneness is so good, so uplifting. And there are certain souls in this life, certain people for all of us, who bring that knowing so alive for us in our lives. And we have experienced that. Most of us sitting here have years of being able to share experiences of growth, of life, of hope, of participation, of community. All of those wonderful things that Frances and Harry were here for, always. We remember all of the events and all of the times and all of the ways that probably many of us marveled and said, I want to be like Frances when I grow up. I want to live that way, where I continue to be so alive and so present. Not perfect, none of us are, but absolutely giving our best foot forward in every moment. And so we see this day the example of Frances, and we can be heartened in that. We can honor her this day by resolving to think about those qualities that she had, the ways that she exemplified God in action, Spirit coming through her. And we can hone those skills, those virtues for ourselves in her memory. And so I am just with thankfulness and joy that Frances and her beloved Harry, both of them were with us for so many years, always participating, always a light in our community. We have truly been blessed. So I bless this service, bless this family, and bless all of us this day in Frances's memory. Thank you, Father, Mother, God, for these incredible people. And so it is.
The last time I had lunch with Harry and Frances, it was at their place in Grass Valley. And Nancy, their daughter, brought in a whole platter of sandwiches, just beautifully made sandwiches. And on the platter were also Lay's potato chips. So Frances said a little, thank you, God, thank you, Nancy. And they proceeded to open the potato chips and eat them first. Every last one. They would not touch a sandwich until those potato chips were gone. And I'm thinking, oh, they're the little kids like, I want to eat cake first, Mom, you know. It was just so cute. So I gobbled mine down too. I mean, I wasn't going to get left behind. Oh my gosh. And so many stories that I know you already know about. Frances canoeing, going down the rivers. The back table are some pictures of her here watching all of us build this building, hammering it up, and she did all the sweeping every day after it was over, sweeping up the sawdust and everything. So she's an integral part of this building. So I found this and I thought, this is so cute. I'd share it with you. It's called The Joys of Canoeing. Water surrounds me constantly. It undulates beneath me. Its motion is soothing and gliding and lulling. It sounds so seductively. It caresses me. It slowly undresses me. I don't know why that's in this poem, but anyway. Because paddling renews me. The sense of peace and wonder brings in the child long surrendered. It rejuvenates my soul. It brings me back home to where nature's bosom I truly belong. Paddling lets me be free, distances me from the din of society, glues together my sanity, opens my mind to creativity, empowering my whole being profoundly. Paddling is contentment, brings back memories, carefree and pleasant. I'm one with the water. I'm in my element. Outdoors always a pure enjoyment. Nature's vista, its colors pleasurable. Its hidden bounty, its secret joy. Silent beauty uncomparable. It always takes my breath away and truly inspires me in no other way. Written by Gina Leon. There's plenty of these in the social hall, but they didn't have enough, so there's other lay opportunities out there.
So thank you. What's interesting is seeing all those potato chips in there. There's all that other stuff, and I did want to break into a bag of chips. Whenever I'm stressed, there's something about salt that just kind of soothes my soul. So I'm really looking forward to all of you having the opportunity to hear from the Bleile family. So I just said they called it the Bleile Legacy. And so I'll have Nancy introduce the different speakers from the family, and then I will be closing that part by a message from the other daughter, Mary Jo. So come on forward.
Well, I'm Frances and Harry's older daughter, and I just want to say thank you so much for all being here today, those of us in the sanctuary and those of us who are live streaming from afar. We just really want to say thank you to Reverend Sue and the whole team who's really making it possible and supporting us being here, getting to honor our beloved mother, Frances. You know, with a life of 97 years, there are a lot of stories and a lot of history. And it was somewhat challenging to decide which ones to choose to share here today. But the things that I want to talk about really represent to me and celebrate Frances's very adventurous, curious, and fun-loving nature. She was a force, and her fierce and determined spirit and her warm, loving heart really informed our family. She valued her independence and could also be a very strong partner. She was born and raised in Portland, Oregon. Harry called her a city girl, pointing out the contrast to his small town upbringing. Her dad, Milton, moved to Portland from Missouri as a teenager to learn the hardwood trade from one of his uncles. And he stayed and worked in the hardware sale. This is harder than I thought it was going to be. Hardware sales for his working life. Her mother, Barbara Wantock, moved from Wisconsin to Portland as a young child, and at the age of 8, her education was interrupted when her dad, who worked for the railroad, died suddenly, and the children had to go stay in an orphanage until their mother could find enough domestic work and save enough money to reunite the family. Barbara and Milton married and had 2 daughters, Barbara, and then 15 months later, Frances. They were a loving and settled family with a house on 20th Street for nearly 50 years. Frances was a lively child, loving to run, camp in the woods, and work on garden and house projects with her dad. She admired his skills and high standards, which she and others could have a hard time meeting. She told us she willingly redid her part of the projects as long as it took to get his nod of approval. We found this a little hard to believe that she really was cheerful about doing this, but she promised us she was. She thought wearing pants would be a better fit for some of her activities, but her dad was firm that pants were not for girls. So she and her mom improvised by putting her legs through the arms of sweaters. But she told us they really struggled to cinch the waist so that these bottoms could be truly functional. Her mother didn't drive, but as Frances got older, she was keen to drive a car, and her dad would have no part of it, refusing to teach her and not letting her drive his car. But she figured it out, and she learned and loved to be behind the wheel through her 80s. On the back table, there are some photos, and one of them is her with a big grin on her face driving at a college event, and another is a photo of her in front of the car that turned out to really be a lemon, but it was the first car she and Harry bought together. After graduating from high school, she followed her older sister to St. Helens Hall, which is sort of a secretarial finishing school in Portland. But Frances found that rather dull and decided to go to Oregon State College in Corvallis instead. And this was really a pretty bold move for her at that tender age, but it turned out to be a great choice. She pledged the Sigma Kappa sorority and found living and studying with other young women very rewarding. Her sister soon joined her, which delighted her. She put herself through college, working in bean fields during the summer, picking beans, and eventually working an office job at the Portland shipyards. And in one of her classes, the professor had students sit in alphabetical order. And the 2 Bleile brothers were sitting in front of the 2 Crawford sisters, and she and Harry met. In 1948, they graduated from college, and later that year began their 72-year marriage. They lived in Reading from 1949 to 1951, leaving when Harry was recalled to the Korean War. Then they endured a year-long separation when Harry was sent overseas, and Frances, pregnant with me, returned to her parents' home in Portland. When the war ended, they left me with my grandparents for a short while and went to San Bernardino, California, to evaluate the community and a job offer for Harry. They thought it was attractive, and the 3 of us moved there in 1953. They built their first house, and Frances designed and built a lovely brick patio with a magical firm bed and a fire pit area for roasting marshmallows and hot dogs. Mary Jo was born in 1957, and life got even more fun. We had many family adventures with Harry, but as Mary Jo and I got big enough to hike and swim, our mom filled our summer days with outdoor adventures. Her trusty 1951 Plymouth had enough clearance to travel the unpaved mountain roads, and she was eager to explore the remote places of the San Bernardino Mountains. She also took on driving the newfangled freeways, itself a big adventure those days. And this meant that we could make day trips to the various Southern California beaches. Our mom loved to play in the waves as much as we did, and with her guidance, we learned to ride the waves using vintage models of the modern boogie boards. And before long, there were other moms and kids joining us in these adventures. In 1966, our family moved back to Redding, prompted by a career job for Harry. And since childhood, Frances had dreamed of living on water. She thought it would be a lake, but one evening they were riding bicycles in the neighborhood and saw someone tack up a for sale sign on a lot on the Sacramento River. They recognized their opportunity and built their new home there. She became an avid organic gardener and in many ways led the gardening that she and Harry enjoyed so much. They grew giant pumpkins for the grandkids and fruits and vegetables that I think many of us enjoyed over the years. She loved sharing the bounty from their yard, including sending freshly picked vegetables to Mary Jo and I on the UPS truck when we lived out of town. She was enthusiastic about the river and rafting on the river, and over 12 years floated it in sections with her friend Jane Korn until they made it to the outskirts of Sacramento. I hope in a little while we'll see the slideshow that Jim Nelson prepared for us. And both Jim and I were struck that there are real kind of gaps in the photos for a lot of the parts of Frances's life. But I realized she was the family photographer, and we weren't smart enough to wrestle the camera away from her. So we have tons of pictures of Mary and I and Harry doing various things. But there are some real gaps of where she's missing from those photos. And after many years of searching, she found her spiritual home here at the center. It was a joy for us to watch her thrive and to benefit from her discoveries here. As she and my dad approached their 90s, their spirits were strong, but many body parts were deteriorating. And it was especially obvious that Frances needed more day-to-day support. She was determined to live in her own place with Harry, and they looked at their options and moved to an apartment at Eschaton in Grass Valley, which was good luck for Sam and I because they were much closer, and it made it much easier for the granddaughters and their families to visit. My beloved late mother-in-law told me, growing old is not for wimps, and my mother really proved that. But her strong, clear spirit really served her as she navigated the many challenges. She really approached her disabilities and her death with clarity and a gratitude for the long, interesting life she had had on this earth. And she has really been an inspiration to me.
Good afternoon. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sam, Nancy's husband and Frances's son-in-law. When I think back about the years I shared with Frances, what stands out is her constant, warm-hearted acceptance. She cooked us lots of wonderful feasts from her garden. She welcomed me with open arms into the family, despite my penchant for taking her daughter rock climbing. She was always the source of a lot of fun and adventure in our family. She loved seeing new places, learning new things, meeting new people. She organized memorable trips for us to kayak the Rogue River, to snorkel on the Great Barrier Reef. She really inspired all of us to get out and live life to the fullest. Really, until her last moments, Frances was exploring life's big questions. I'm just grateful to have known and been loved by her. She lives on in me as a spirit of adventure and curiosity. Thank you, Frances.
Hi, everybody. My name is Devin Bleile Kratzer. I am a granddaughter to Grandma Frances. It is harder than you think it's going to be. So I wanted to say thank you for being here and making the time and space to remember Grandma and to celebrate her. And we have tons of wonderful memories of Grandma and Grandpa and Harry and Frances together. And today I wanted to share just some memories that are specific about Grandma Frances. So some of my memories when I was a young kid, I loved that Grandma Frances fussed over me and Anne. I loved that. When we would come to visit her and when we were with her, she would bake cookies. And she would make BLT sandwiches with the tomatoes from the garden and with mayonnaise, which I did not like, but on the BLT it was really nice. When we were not together, she knit sweaters for us, and I had that feeling that she was always thinking about us. She was a very sweet grandmother. When we were very little, Grandma Frances would interview Anne and I, and she wanted to ask us about our thoughts and our ideas and our stories. She was very curious about us and our perspective. And Grandma Frances used a tape recorder, and I think that sometimes that tape recorder even had a microphone. And I loved that she did this. I felt so important that she was interested in this level of what we were thinking. And I had this feeling that she was capturing and keeping our little voices and our little ideas, or big ideas from little people. When we visited Grandma Frances, which was often, I loved that our entire day, our whole day would pause to watch as the world turns together. And for an hour, we would sit there and dissect the drama and the relationships. It was so fun. I loved that we timed our Costco shopping trips perfectly so that the samples counted as our lunch. I thought I appreciated about Grandma that this was very smart and efficient planning. As an adult, I knew and understood that Grandma Frances loved the river, the forest, Pismo Beach in November. She loved rafting and camping and gardening. She loved her husband and her daughters, Mary and Nancy, and her granddaughters and her great-grandsons. As an adult, I saw Grandma Frances as a strong and successful woman who made time to contemplate and reflect and grow. She was one of my favorite persons to call because she laughed with delight at the updates from my life that to me often seemed rather dull or difficult. But her amusement gave me a lighter perspective, and she was a wonderful cheerleader. I'll leave you with one final story, one memory. This is a memory, I think it was the last time that I came to Reading. I think it was December of 2011. And we came to Reading to visit Grandma Frances, Grandpa Harry, and Aunt Mary. We came up here specifically to celebrate New Year's. We came together. It was myself, my husband, my stepson, who was 13, and our brand new baby, Benjamin, who was 3.5 months old. We wanted specifically to bring Benjamin, and I think this was Grandma's idea. We wanted to bring Benjamin to the New Year's midnight meditation at this spiritual center. And even though Grandma wanted to do this very badly, she was also pretty nervous that Benjamin might make noise and might disrupt the meditation. I loved that the meditation was sacred to Grandma, and that this church and community was special and dear to her. I promised her that Ben would not make any noise. And so we all attended the midnight meditation together to bring in the new year. I loved that Grandma took the risk, and I loved the sacredness and I loved the sacredness and that the meditation and the community was important to her, and I loved that she trusted me. So Benjamin did, in fact, make no noise. He meditated, and he stayed quiet through the entire event. At the end of the event, Grandma was delighted. She was a beautiful combination of relief and pride and happiness that we had done the midnight meditation together and that we had shared that experience. I love you, Grandma Frances, and I love being able to remember you and celebrate your life, and thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Ann Levinson, Frances's youngest granddaughter. And after hearing from Nancy and Sam and Devin, some of what I have to say may feel a little repetitive. There are some strong and similar themes, but bear with me. I am here to share some of my memories of my time with the extraordinary woman who was Frances Bleile. Yep. All right, if you will please close your eyes. As I read some words that represent to me who my grandmother was, I hope you will see in your mind a vision of who Frances was to you. Spirited, daring, zest for life, open-minded, adventurous, bold, tolerant, indulgent, independent, competent, strong, stubborn, beautiful, Frances was love. Thank you. You may open your eyes or keep them closed if you prefer. Frances was a force of nature. Some might say she was a force to be reckoned with. I was shocked when I heard Grandma was going to go skydiving when she was in her 60s and decided she needed to confront and conquer her fear of heights. I was about 10, and when you're 10, you think people in their 30s are old. You think people in their 60s must be on their last leg. You think they've already lived their entire lives. They are who they are, and they are who they will always be. Why bother trying to learn something new or change who you are when you're already 60? I'm 40 now, so I realize that 60 is still in your prime. But this is who Grandma was. She never stopped exploring and learning and growing. She was an adventurer and wasn't willing to have fear hold her back. This was a shocking idea for a 10-year-old, but I was also very inspired. I was in awe that my grandmother would do something so daring and exciting, especially since it was something she was terrified to do, but was determined to do it anyway. She made me want to live my life where I did things I was afraid to do too. As soon as I was legally allowed to, I jumped out of an airplane because if my grandmother could do it in her 60s, I could certainly do it when I was 18. I think she was pleased that she had inspired me to do that leap and go skydiving. She was always encouraging all of us to say yes to adventure and to get out of our comfort zone. Nancy studied abroad in high school, which is a pretty big deal. Mary traveled the world, often independently on her own. Devin went back to school to get her nursing degree, and I jumped out of an airplane. This lesson of facing your fears directly, to push past them and live beyond your fears, has stuck with me for my entire life, and I am grateful for it. I have a deep and broad fear of spiders, and I've had that for as long as I can remember. I didn't even like daddy long legs. And I hated how my fear could take hold and keep me from doing things. So when I was in Belize for a college summer course, and our professor offered to take students tarantula hunting, you can imagine how much I did not want to go tarantula hunting. But I went, and I let tarantulas crawl all the way up my body and onto my head because my grandmother taught me to not let fear hold me back from living my biggest and fullest life. Now, I'd be lying if I said that experience eradicated my fear of spiders, but it honestly did temper my fear, and it showed me that I can face my fear and be okay afterwards. This is just one of the ways Frances has shaped and continues to shape my life. I am so grateful to Grandma Frances for the woman she was, for the grandmother she was. She truly set the bar high for all of us. I am grateful to her for being such an amazing grandmother, not just because I grew up knowing that my grandparents loved and adored me, but because my mother, Nancy, was inspired by Frances's grandmothering style and has continued Frances's legacy of enthusiastically loving her grandchildren. Just as Harry and Frances would drive hours to see and spend time with and care for Devin and I, Nancy drives endless hours and rearranges her schedule to spend time with her grandsons and to support mine and Devin's families. Frances's legacy lives on as we continue to gather together at Pismo Beach each year for Thanksgiving. And Nancy has taken up the mantle, organizing adventures and gatherings for our family, just as Grandma Frances and Grandpa Harry had during their lives. Like the trip rafting down the Rogue River in Oregon that Frances and Harry took us on years ago, Nancy and Sam took our families on a river rafting adventure on the American River this past summer. Thank you, Grandma. Thank you for showing us, through your example, that life should be lived big and loud and fun to its fullest every day, despite and sometimes because of our fears. You were a remarkable woman. You were loved immensely. And you will be missed greatly. We will do our best to continue to make you proud and to raise the next generation of fearless trailblazers. Thank you.
It's beautiful. Have the screen come down. So it's my honor to follow this beautiful family and to bring it together by sharing Pardon? This is still the family sharing. Okay, that's right. So this is from Mary Jo, some of the words that we shared together. And what I'm going to show you is the pictures, a tribute to Frances from her daughter. These pictures, I believe, speak Mary's heart more than words can. She wrestled with trying to be here today. But she shared with me that she and Frances spent sacred time together towards the end of Frances' life, and that she actually lived with Frances in those days. So what you're seeing here are different photographs. This is Mary's world. This is Mary's world. She's very private, yet very bold. She knows that she has a beautiful bond with both her parents. And as she had that time to spend with her mother those last days, there was a peacefulness that she witnessed between her mother and herself, but also with her sister. So being an independent spirit, the life that she has created is perfect for her. She describes it as a happy ending for both of them to see each other in their wholeness and in some magical way to live vicariously through each other. She does value her bond with her mother, and she knows that she is able to live her dream come true because of the fruits of her parents' loving nature. Mary's forever grateful and knows that her parents are close by her in this beauty of nature that you witness here, the silence that surrounds her in her landscape, in this beautiful, peaceful desert landscape of peace. This is Mary's spiritual sanctuary. This is where she feels complete and at peace, though missing her parents will always remain a journey of her heart. And she also shared that she remembered the wisdom of Frances telling her to live fearlessly. And she said, what to say at a celebration of service on my behalf? I'm drawing a blank, but I'm counting on all of you to hear me. Thank you for witnessing her truth. So, thank you. And I wanted to now invite the friends of Frances. There's a few of, all of you are friends, but Roy Wolfstead's going to come forward. Linda Mitchell's going to come forward to read a letter from Dr. Andrea Azevedo. And then we have the Pars and Joy Johns to speak. So it'll be Roy, then Linda. I kind of went out of order, wherever Joy is. Where is Joy? Oh, there she is. There she is. So Joy, you will follow Linda when she speaks, okay? And then we'll close with some words from Francie and Bill Parr. Roy.
I have to say, that was beautiful. Hard act to follow. So I'm speaking on behalf of Diana and myself. We've come to the center for over 25 years, and Frances and Harry were already here. They were welcoming. We miss them both, and they are always in our hearts. Frances, a person of love, unbelievable humor, understanding, and compassion. Frances was the Center for Spiritual Living board member in the family. The person with the vision of what our center could and did become. Physically, she supported the building of the sanctuary that we're sitting in. Harry said it was her vision to plant the sycamore trees in the parking lot. They are beautiful, yet they provide ample opportunity for what we call seva, volunteer work, in picking up the leaves each fall. Frances and Harry were participants in events, fundraisers here at the center. They were members and generous with their time and treasure. They really talked the talk and walked the walk. Skip this part, it's been said. To Diane and I, Frances shared a precious gift of deep caring about our lives. She was always cheering us on with an elder's wisdom for what was happening in our life. In the past few years, personally, she was struggling physically and experiencing her beloved Harry's illness and death. She still continued to talk to us about our journey, our caregiving of Diana's mother. Our family dynamics, her matter-of-fact approach to living, loving, and dying, just so open to be able to express herself. And she had such a way of being an accepting person, no matter who you were, no matter your difficulties. She had a great attitude. She said, leaving the family home was sad, but it was the best choice. When Frances talked to us as Parkinson's started to create changing in her physical abilities, not only did she not complain, She just accepted what life was giving her. And she would do the best she could. She would balance her needs for Nancy and for Mary to help her. But she always kept her children's needs and their lives in mind. She always wanted the help, but she wanted them to have what they had created, which gave her such joy. These are just a few examples of how Frances was a spiritual model on how to be. Frances said towards the end of her life, having expressed this many times over the years, how grateful she was for what she learned here at the center, how to handle life presented as a blessing, even in her dying. During the caregiving of their mother, we became true friends with Frances's daughter, Nancy. And we had the privilege to know her daughter, Mary, as a loving caregiver. We hope that we can create a family of our own, equal to the loving family nourished and brought into being by Frances and Harry. I'm going to read a poem that I read at the celebration when they moved to Grass Valley some 10 years ago. This is what Mary Oliver has to say. In Blackwater Woods, look at the trees. They're turning their own bodies into pillars of light and giving off rich fragrance of cinnamon and fulfillment. The long tapers of cattails, the bursting and floating away over the blue shoulders of the ponds. And every pond, no matter what its name is nameless now. Every year, everything I have learned in my lifetime leads back to this. The fires and the black river of loss, whose other side is salvation, whose meaning none of us will ever know. To live in this world, you must be able to do 3 things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, and when it comes time to let go, to let go. Thank you.
Hello. I'm so honored to read this message from Dr. Andrea. She writes, I had the deep pleasure of meeting Frances in my mid-20s, a young mom with a growing family who wanted to be a minister. She immediately became a role model because she was a one-of-a-kind woman, open-minded, adventurous, both in living and in spirituality. 2 of the most important things that Frances did for me. At Lindy's bridal shower, we were all asked to offer advice from our experience. Frances followed someone who had been married 3 times and felt they couldn't offer anything. So Frances said, well, I've been married 3 times too, just to the same man. And each of those phases of our marriage required different ways of being together. It was simple and yet profound, and I've applied that wisdom ever since. And I just want to interject, I have a memory from that evening too. When Lindy asked Frances, what advice do you have for me? Frances said, well, I was going to ask you. I still hold that evening in my heart. The second memory that Dr. Andrea has was recent, and I'll bet there are a few here who were also privileged in this way.
When Frances knew she was about to go, she called me. She spent some time of those precious last moments on earth thanking me for everything I had offered. She went on to speak of how hopeful she was for our world because of the children growing up and all they have to offer. It was a remarkable gift from a truly remarkable woman.
No, you have to. Let me help you. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'm going to move this down.
Great. Thank you.
This is Joy Johns.
So I didn't write anything. It's all from memory. I've spent the week dreaming about it all, and we're here together, just this way it should be. So I met Frances when she walked in to the, I think it was Shasta Inn. I think everybody's heard I found my way into this teaching quite by accident. I didn't know where I was going, and I sat down and I stayed. She made a list of where she was going, and she walked in. She said, I greeted her. I don't remember. What I remember is she came to help me with that heavy coffee pot. The Shasta Inn allowed us this coffee pot, but we had to clean it up, and it was heavy. And she saw me struggling, asked if she could help, and we became partners in the coffee pot thing. So one thing led to the other. We found that we were both married to Harrys, and that means home ruler, they think. Well, she was a few years older, but she found out we were married about the same time. We were, my husband and I, in 51. And so we thought we had a lot in common, and she kept me laughing. And what I'm remembering, you talked about her wearing pants. We went to a Asilomar one year, and when she had her sister, I wish I remembered to ask what the sister's name was. Barbara. I'll always remember as Little Bo Peep. So we were in costume, and they learned that I had not a partner that had to go home early. And so they didn't want me walking all the way through the campus there to Asilomar, across the highway to the motel where I would be staying alone. Now, Frances is dressed as a beekeeper, the hat with the veil and the smudge pot and so on. And she knew the stories about my being lost in the woods. She could tell me what trees were. I don't know. They all looked alike. And she'd heard actually 3 stories of being lost in the woods, one across the road from where I live. So she decides that they're going to walk me back to the cabin. And I said, no, I'll be fine. I have a flashlight. I'll stay on the trail. I'll be fine. No. We're going to walk you home. Get behind me. Give me the flashlight. And so her sister said, give me the keys to the cabin. And she said something about my sister's always looking after me. So I had the 3 of us going in the same direction, trying to be quiet because some of the cabins had shh on the doors or please be quiet and so on. We're going through the woods on the trail to get across the highway to this motel. She was the beekeeper, I was a gypsy, and her sister, Little Bo Peep. And I will never forget that. And I didn't get lost. Every time I see trees now, I think of her wishing that I had learned the names of them. Thank you for having this one here. It's perfect. Thank you all for being here. It's a perfect date for her. Thank you. Thank you.
Greetings. My name is Francie Parr, and my husband and I now live in Ashland, Oregon, but we did live here in Redding for almost 40 years. I was very lucky to live here for many, many reasons, but one of the biggest is that I got to know and love Harry and Frances Bleile and their wonderful family. Frances was a wise mentor and a late-in-life second mother to Bill and me. She was exactly who we needed at a time in our lives when we were raising little kids, and she gave us such wise encouragement and advice from her personal life that has stuck with us to this day. Frances was spirited, warm, loving, optimistic, supportive, and a curious woman. She loved to tell stories from her long life, and I loved hearing every single word of them because they revealed the deep love, the excitement of life, the struggles, regrets, and the ensuing restorations, atonements, and reparations that are so universal to all of us humans. She was a faithful woman. She had great confidence in humanity and in our species. This was immensely reassuring to me. She often said after a deep and moving talk between us, "Never, never, never give up." And I knew she meant that from all of the challenging experiences she faced in her amazing life, like the time she broke her hip in primitive Bali in the 1990s, or when she and Harry were at odds about their spiritual and religious lives, or her compassionate stories of the trials of raising her own kids, or when she was in assisted living, she fell out of her bed onto the floor, spent the night there on the hard floor, in the dark, in the cold, and the discomfort of not being able to get up or have anyone hearing her calling. She never gave up. And she talked about wanting to give up right then, but that was not how she was going to end her life. Some things I'll always remember about Frances and cherish, and Harry. It's hard for me not to say both of their names at the same time, isn't it? Of course, they were distinct individuals, but they were also such a strong and vital and caring duo. So as has been mentioned, she jumped out of an airplane I understood, on her 60th birthday. All of those Thanksgivings at Pismo Beach, where they carted in the cooked turkeys and all of the fixings. The Christmas Eves that happened at our house on Corto Street, right here in Reading. And their personally coined phrase, heart to heart, which they write on letters or say to each other in a phone call or leave on a text. And now Bill and I do the same thing and pass it on to our children. Bill and I have 2 persimmon trees planted in our yard in Ashland. That's because Mary Bleile told her parents long, long ago, when they lived on the river, that persimmon trees are known to represent divination, abundance, and that we always have a choice in life. We love our 2 persimmon trees. One of them is called the Bleile tree, and the other we call by our little grandson, who was then little Anthony, and his nickname was Nini, so that's the Nini tree. We love to go out to them and talk to them and see how they're doing and count the number of persimmons and think about the good times with Harry and Frances. As I do my daily walks in the beautiful area in which we live, I can't help but praise and thank them for all that they did in support of the life, the health, and the love of our forests. Their deep and abiding and very much alive love for their entire family. Oh, how they loved you dearly and loved to tell the stories. Harry and I shared the same birth date, March 29th. That was special between us. We called each other birthday twins. Frances and I shared the name, Frances. The name means to be free. Frances, with your help, your love, and your support, I have been able to free myself from some of those entangling chains we humans do to ourselves. Thank you. And Frances, may you be experiencing the greatest love and freedom now.
Bill, were you going to share anything? A lot of bugs there. Were you going to share anything, Bill? No? Okay. All right. Well, we're going to show the slideshow at this time. That's what's we're eager to see. So, Charlie, can you get the lights? And following this beautiful tribute to her life, and remember there's going to be gaps because she was the photographer. I want to mention too, have a chance to look through that calendar back there, because that was a family calendar that shows a sequence of the pumpkins. So that experience, it'll bring back some memories. After we see this, we'll have a beautiful tribute by Reverend Lynn.
You belong among the wildflowers. You belong in a boat out at sea. Sail away, kill off the hours. You belong somewhere you feel free. Run away, find you a lover. Go away, somewhere all bright and new. I have seen no other who compares cover. You belong in that home by and by. You belong among the wildflowers. You belong somewhere close to me, far away from your trouble and worry. You belong somewhere you feel free. You belong somewhere you feel free.
You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. Tu es l'image de Dieu. I hold you in my heart. Tu es l'image de l'amour. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. Tu sei la luce di Dio. I hold you in my heart. Tu sei il volto dell'amore. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of love. You are the face of love. I hold you in my heart. You are my family. You are my family. You are the face of love. The face of love. You are the face of love. The face of love. I hold you in my heart. You in my heart. You are my family. You are my family. You are the face of love. You are the face of God, the face of God. I hold you in my heart, you in my heart. You are a part of me, a part of me. You are the face of God, the face of God. You are the face of God. Eres la luz de Dios. I hold you in my heart. Eres la cara del amor. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. 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 La luce di Dio. You are the face of God. The face of God. You are the face of God. L'image de Dieu. You are the face of God. The face of God. You are the face of God.
Joy Johns brought this prayer fan that I made for Frances and Harry years ago. So when I do the closing prayer, I'm going to use that. And it goes to Nancy to share with family after today. Yeah. I met Harry first. I work in the timber industry, and so did he. And he was very involved also in the Forest Museum. For many years, when you would purchase a tree to plant through Turtle Bay Exploration Park, there would be Harry's name on the certificate. Then I met Frances here. I used to sit with them frequently when I would come here. Amazing people. For 6 years, I was executive director at Reading Community Access. On Community Access, it had 3 television channels, and the one that they focused on was the one where we had, what was the name of it? Spiritual Principles. We aired programs from the services here on Sunday. We also aired there Mary Mannon Morrissey, Mary Ann Williamson, and we did many local productions featuring roles of people in faith community as well as community service. But whether I saw Frances and Harry here at the service or downtown, whenever I would encounter them during those years, they would say, "You know, what we really liked this week was..." They were always cheering for things that they felt made a difference in community, and always noticed and supported my efforts in bringing things to community. I felt valued, seen, and loved by them. When I think of them, I think of that capacity to connect and love, to support. For a period of time, I was the author in the Record Searchlight Women's Magazine on relationships. And I sat down with Frances and Harry at their home and interviewed them and crafted the article about their journey together as a couple. And I love the part where Frances said to me, "I remember our first date. Harry asked me if I would go out, and together we would search for night aphids." She said, "I knew then." Very, very remarkable. One of the things also we did is for many years we'd have the group camp out from the center over at Patrick's Point. And it's now called Sumeg. And it's named after a native Yurok village that's there called Sumeg. And I got permission from the Yurok community one year to do ceremony in one of the lodges. So the lodges have these long roof lines and a short space that comes up all made of cedar planks or redwood planks. But to get into those, there was a round hole about this big that was down at the ground level. And as you walked in, or as you climbed in, inside was also another square, and the sacred fire would be in the center. And we were all going inside the lodge. I was standing outside, and Dr. Andier was standing inside the door, and as people started through that process, we would just, welcome them. I would smudge them as they were going in also. I can remember Frances, a little older then, and she looked at that doorway. And after I smudged her, and she's like, And she knelt down, and at the same time she knelt down, Andrea reached out her hand and gently guided her through and lifted her to the inside. Frances was the last one to go in before me. And as I stood there next to her, there was Andrea, Frances, and I. Frances says, "That lady has pulled me through many, many holes." That's who she was. It's who they were. They are part of the legacy, the fiber, the energy of this sacred space. They have, I would say they're part of my genetic makeup because of the imprint of who they are. I remember when we did the columns here, the two sides, and did the love washing as they were leaving. To honor them, I just wanted to keep them. But I also knew it was best for them. One of the things that really has meant so much to me through the years, and especially after Frances's passing, in Native American culture, we call it walking on. We see it as a new part of a journey. They're just walking on to a new journey. So she called me, and we had a lengthy conversation on the phone, reminiscing about things we had done here at the center. One of the things we were laughing about is one of the classes, they would come to the classes that I had, and we were in the bookstore before the table was in the center. And so we had a circle in there. And those two at one of the breaks were all sitting around just relaxing and visiting. And they were sitting side by side. And Frances started to talk about this day of adventure they had up around Mount Shasta on this logging road. And as she started out, Harry goes, and she said, I'm going to tell my story first, and then you can tell your story. We all laughed, they laughed. They had so much wisdom, so much heart, spiritual people. I would say we've had the experience of greatness. Greatness. I miss them, but I think of them on a regular basis. And that long conversation, that it was such a treasure that Frances would call me and we would reminisce. And she told me, I used to live in the roundhouse at Park Marina Pond, was there for 19 years, and she said, I so loved it when we would go there. She said there was something special about the energy of that place. And she talked about different things like the floating of the lanterns and gatherings we'd have there just to socialize and having that spiritual community. They're builders of community. I would say it's in their DNA. So I thanked her for the call. It's the last time I had a conversation with her. And after that call, I searched through my photos and got this photo of the roundhouse and sent her a card so that she could have that and treasure those memories as much as I did. I knew she did because she talked about them. I miss them. And as I move through this lifetime and hear the sharing of how they have touched us, shaped us, inspired us, carried us, I want to honor her with this closing prayer, her and Harry, for how they've imprinted us. And I'm going to ask Joey to come forward through the voice of spirit, through the flute. We honor greatness. If you're capable, I invite you to stand. So we offer this blessing and prayer. In honor of Frances, her partnership with Harry, who each of them were and are, we offer this blessing to the Great Spirit, to each of them. We honor the original people of this land, the Wintu, and we honor Grandfather Sky, Grandmother Earth, the two-legged and the four-legged, the winged creatures, the rocks and minerals, the plant life, all the life that fills our waterways, the life-giving energy of the water itself, to the one ocean, to our brothers and sister trees who feed us oxygen, who sustain us, who create beauty, to our ancestors and our teachers, and to the legacy Frances and Harry have given us, the support, the love, the legacy they've created through their family and through their community of friends. We walk through this lifetime gifted with their greatness, accepting their love, learning to love as they have loved. And we give thanks for their presence and their continued influence. And so we speak a blessing for lives led that heal, that connect, that produce health and wellness and beauty. And Frances, as you have walked on, as Harry too has walked on, we know you're still as curious, still as venturesome, insightful. You cheer us on even from where you are. And we give great thanks for your presence, for the gift of who you are. You inspire us. You have helped to heal us. And for this, we give great thanks to you, our ancestors, and to all our relations. Oh. You may be seated.
Very moving. Thank you, Lynn. Joey. So we're at a part of ceremony where we release Frances, and this is a very important part for those of us here still on this plane, this part of letting go. And there was one other thing that Mary had said, that she felt this celebration and honoring of her mom's life by having that opportunity, as I spoke about moving in with her and creating space for her dying wish to come true. And what that was a conscious death, the kind that Reverend Dr. James Golden taught her about. And so Mary shares in that process, she too discovered that a conscious death is a fearless death. I saw my mom do it. And so that leads me into this part, and just very brief, there was a story that I read from Mark Nepo, who, 7,000 Ways to Listen, but he shares this moment, and I think it's so, it speaks Frances to me. And this was a story that he heard from a fellow that named Marco, who was a photographer in Santa Clara. And Mark had asked him a particular question on what was important to him, what had changed his life, what one thing. And Mark was answering him, and his voice was quivering. And I thought about the daughters here. For what he said, he witnessed how 2 breaths can change his life. And he spoke first of his daughter's breath, and then his mother's last breath. He recalled, as my daughter took and inhaled the world, it seemed to awaken her soul on earth. And yet, when his mother exhaled her years, it seemed to free her soul of the world. So beautiful. Those 2 breaths had jarred this young man to live more openly and more honestly. He took those 2 breaths into his own daily breath practice and quickly saw their common presence in everyone's breathing. So that's what we do here together. We find that sacred breath together. We're always, as Ram Dass says, walking each other home. So in this ceremony dedicated right now to Frances and to all the love and all the stories that you've heard, I've shaped this release ceremony after the story told by Warren Hansen called The Next Place. It just seemed to really be what Frances would say of her own passing. So I'm going to have Joey just play quietly in the background, and I want you just to imagine this, how beautiful this imagery is. The next place Frances has gone was peaceful and familiar as a sleepy summer Sunday, and like a sweet, untroubled mind. And yet it wasn't anything like any place she's ever been or seen or even dreamed while she was in this place that she left behind. She did not know where she was going at first. She was gliding beyond the rainbows, drifting above the sky, flying into the wonder without even wondering why. So was the journey of her death. Not remember getting there, but somehow knowing she's arrived and she knew she belonged. Suddenly feeling more alive than ever before and absolutely free of the things she held on to and the things that were holding her, she was free. This next place for Frances was so quiet, so still. The whispered song of sweet belonging rose up to fill the listening space around her with a joyful silence and an unheard harmony of music made by no one playing, like a hush upon a breeze. Something familiar held her. There's no darkness now, this place that holds our Frances, a place of living light. The air was filled with a brilliance as the brightly shining sun and the moon and 500,000 stars, as if all married into one. This next place that Frances is not really a place at all, because there are no seasons of summer, winter, fall, or spring, no days or months, no usual time. Seconds are standing still, yet hours hurry by. She doesn't seem to be anybody, just simply herself. No worse or better than that. Just being. The body she knew is not a part of her at all. She finally knows her perfection without any flaws. No more mistakes, misgivings, all regrets, any impatience, any insecurity completely left behind. But something familiar is holding her. She recognized she was traveling empty-handed. Not a single thing she collected in her life was with her except something very priceless. Something so heart-expanding and real. We feel it. It's love. The love of us here, and of those who loved her, and all the warmth of those who cared. All the happiness, all the memories, all the magic that we shared with her. All of this was filling up her beingness. She realized she would never be alone in this place of joy and solitude. She feels embraced always by family and friends that she ever knew, all of them. Although she knows she might not see our faces, she knows and feels that all our hearts are beating as one, and the circle of our spirits are shining brighter than the sun. This holds her now. This is our love. And that something familiar she knew was with her all along, that was Harry. All of the love that was manifested in her experience was drawn into this moment of oneness. So as we release you, Frances, knowing that you truly cherished all of our friendships, all through the journeys of your life, your beloved, sweet, sweet family knows how fortunate they were to have all these adventures with you in this place that you left behind. All this good, though, all of this good lives in each of our hearts. We've testified to it today, and we know that this good is in you. That is what makes our spirits glow. This light is shining forever, and God is blessing us with a grace that brings a deep, abiding comfort to our souls. And we breathe. And we know we need to let you go. So each one of us here, we have our personal stories, and we all have our personal experience of what God is and what life is, what all this means, and we're all trying to understand about death, but it's a mystery to all of us. But we are here, and we know that, Frances, you've made a very sacred and blessed exit. And so we find comfort in knowing of this transition that you've made. We believe in the immortality and the eternality of every soul. We believe and we see that your legacy of your life is still flowing. It's still all around us, flowing, speaking to us, reminding us what to live for, what to believe in, what to love. So we can choose right now, knowing we have not lost Frances. She's only gone before. And so some of the grip of grief or pain that pulls on our heartstrings, we feel that's starting to fade. Nancy mentioned that this feels good to be finally here at this point, to celebrate in a community that she loved dearly. So nothing can be added to this moment. It's beautiful, and nothing will be taken from it. God has blessed us over and over with our experience and connection to Frances, to Harry, and to her family. And we're grateful for that. So I invite you to stand one more time in honor of Frances. Place your hands together in the gesture, the sacred gesture of namaste. This idea, as you allow your hands to come together at the field of your own heart, you are enclosing that space within a divinity and an understanding of love and of the divine. And so as you glance at the light, the candle light represents the light of Frances in each one of our lives. The picture, that innocent, sweet picture of her shining her eyes back at us. The fun idea of watching and waiting for the woodpeckers in the world to wake us up, to give us the message that we need to know. So we're honoring you. You have touched us, inspired us, and now we bow to you in a gratitude. You, this happy being with a cherished life, the beauty and compassion, all these attributes, your deepest expression. And so this moment is so sacred as we allow ourselves to become calm and shower you with our love and the appreciation for every moment of laughter, for all the wisdom, every gift that you left us with. And now we take that on to be in service to others. You taught us to live truth. So in this moment, trust and know that your family, Mary, Nancy, Ann, Devin, Sam, and all these beautiful grandchildren, great-grandchildren, are cared for and safe, and we allow this candlelight that you see. I'm going to ask Lynn to come forward. Lynn, can you hold that candle up to the family? And there's this moment as she holds that candle, as you pass by Nancy first, and Nancy, just drink that light in, knowing that that represents all that has been said today, and then on down through the family. And I want you just to feel that you're absorbing that light, that final moment of light. So knowing that this represents all that has been, we're releasing you into a greater light, and we are bidding you farewell. And now, Lynn, just stand there and hold it up for all people. And I just invite you all to focus in on that light. Because in the name of the Christ consciousness within us all, with this word we now sever any earthly bond, and we allow any belief that is holding you back, any sense of a possessive thought. We are releasing you into the infinite, one powerful life. We feel so deeply blessed by knowing and loving you. It is the spirit of life and love that holds you now. And as Lynn now blows out that candle, we recognize that her light has finally been released into that oneness. We've set her free. She may rest in peace. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. You may be seated. We are going to enjoy some closing music, but I want you to recognize what you feel like right now. Complete. Maybe you have a story you're longing to share, but we invite you to, if you're in the social hall and you just say, hey, everybody, listen to me, I got a great story. Toot your own horn. There was something I did want to share with you on the woodpecker, because I think it's important. It's from my Bible, The Beasties. Not really a Bible, but it's a great book about animals. But listen to this. You might not know this. If the woodpecker is your totem, it represents divine source, purpose, perseverance, resourcefulness. The woodpecker is your core beastie. You are able to get information out of sources that others simply can't. So the beautiful, I'll leave this open in case you guys want to look at it, but it's just beautiful. And I just thought, well, of course, that sounds just like her in so many ways. And I've already been hearing some woodpecker stories. I was trying to concentrate, and there was a woodpecker that would not be quiet. And I thought, okay, I'm listening to you, Frances. She helped me put it together. So let's feel as we leave here today that we are surrounded with that prayer of protection, that the light that we just felt today and witnessed amongst each other, that we carry that light with us. And wherever God is, that light is, and we are. And so it is. You are excused as you want to join the social hall. You may listen to the music, come up to the altar, say a final goodbye. They're both present here. So the picture's on the back table. Make sure you take that in. And I know these kids have been so beautiful, so beautiful. You get to be first in the cookie line unless you've already snuck a few, which I would have. Anyway, thank you all.